So I want you to think about, like, what problems do you face regularly? I don't know what the problem is. What's the kind of problem? Talking?
Yes, loud
Okay,
talking,
so loud.
excitement.
Okay. So loud, excited talking.
Yes.
Okay, and the pattern is?
It's emotions, I guess.
And what's the pattern? Is there a pattern to it?
The pattern, I think,
Every
would
week, every
be
day?
that they're separated and then they come back together. That's all they really want to do is talk about their day.
Okay. So the pattern is they're friends and they want to connect.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a bad thing.
It's not bad.
What's concerning is the loud, is the
The
volume.
excitement level of their,
Is the
because they're
volume.
kids.
They want to be excited, but
Yes.
it's not loud, right? So it's loud's the
Yes.
issue, and the time is both.
PM.
It's PM.
Yeah.
All right, who else has?
To add to what she says, what makes it a problem is they all come back together, and then the ones sitting in the front of the bus are running to talk to the ones in the back of the bus, so they're turning around and leaning over the seats and yelling at the
Hey,
friends in the back of the
Rhonda,
bus,
did you hear? Yeah.
because they don't want to wait to talk to those people that are 7 or 8 seats away.
Okay, all right, another one. Most regular, typical ones you have. Standing while the bus is moving.
Yes.
Okay. And so do they stand the whole way, or they just pop up and stand, or stand to yell, or
They change seats while you're there.
Okay, so this one, okay, who else has staying seated as one of their top 3 issues? Staying seated. Okay. Staying seated and facing forward.
I have such a problem with one of my schools. I spend more time looking in the mirror than I spend looking up where I'm going.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it's
so
very
that's
dangerous,
concerning.
and I've tried to explain to them. And then the kids look at me and they go, I'm listening.
Yeah. Okay, another one? Yeah, you're right.
How do you get them
Okay.
to quiet down in the classroom and stay quiet? How's that?
Well,
That goes back to what you said with respect.
it's about teaching it, and it's about teaching it. And teachers, I mean, I'll just give you a quick example. You know, with 600 kids at an assembly, and I don't have this big booming voice and no mic. So we had to practice this. So I used a attention-getting signal that, you know, they could see my lips move, but they could see this, all 680 kids. So in a cafeteria. So we practiced it, and it was annoying, and it took up some time. But you just have to do it. It's just, you know, for you, it's critical, it's safety. For me, it was like we needed to have something efficient so we could have a presentation, or the orchestra was going to play for us, or something was going to happen. So I would say, may I have your attention? The first 3 rows probably heard me, but everybody could see this. And then they would get quiet, and they couldn't hear me. Or I'd say, we're going to try it again. I would give, that's probably about a 3, and we've done it 5 before. Let's try it again. Go back and talk. They were talking, I said, may I have your attention? It would be like, snap. We had to practice at it, and they got really good. So there are times you have to, you know, you have to figure out what's going to work for you and do that. And I know you don't have, I mean, I didn't have a day to practice with my kids. It was like, you know, a minute or 2. That's all we really had to kind of do something like that. And I know you don't, you know, I didn't have all those kids in my class, but it was a lot of kids, just like you have a lot of kids. I know the context is different, you're moving. But the few minutes that you can take to practice with your kids on anything is really going to have big payoffs. So let's move forward. So this is to kind of validate again what you're telling us, is that in a survey that happened from Moran District at the University of Oregon, out of 300 bus drivers, this is the problems as far as frequency. Moving out of seat, 68%. So you validated with that. Noise and rowdiness, 64%. Rude or disrespectful, 43%. Matching up. And then fighting or hitting, 39%. So it's quantified. You're not crazy. It does happen. And we do know it. We do need to kind of figure out how to kind of do the best we can, knowing that this is the context that you have every day. So the challenges, every school does face, you know, all these challenges. You're not alone. Unsafe behavior, disrespect to students and adults, and not acting in a responsible manner. So we can meet these challenges, and actually you have met the challenges. In 2010, 11, at the beginning of the year, you had over 281 bus bus referrals. And then by the end of that year, it went down to 112 after we started doing PBIS on the bus. And that's with the schools teaching the lessons, and with using the positive reinforcements for the behavior, not just passing them out like candy, like, hey, you all have smiles on your face today, everybody gets a bus buck. It's not how you should be using them. We're going to talk about that next week more. And then the correction system, how you kind of do that. Because the teachers were teaching the lessons, and you were working with that too. So that's a 26% decrease, and then a 43% decrease even the next year. And then look where we are, 2012 and 13. So really nice. That's a really nice trend. So how many people would like to go back and have this year? Not me. But you want to reset and have it continuing to go down. Now the 13-14 school year data is almost mirrors this exactly alike. The reason we didn't put it up there that there were 2 schools who didn't put their data in correct, or into the right source, and so we don't have that, you know, perfectly the way we wanted it. I mean, as far as like reporting. So, but it really almost completely mirrors what the 12-13 year was. So we do have data. It's not like we're making it up. It's like what really happened. So why the reduction? Is that the clear expectations, what we expect of kids was really clear. We started that in 2010-11, and you got to be clear about, here's what it looks like to wait for the bus, here's what it's like to get on the bus, here's what it looks like to ride the bus, here's what it looks like to exit the bus. All those different expectations were taught at all the schools, in all the buses. And the teachers are still teaching those lessons today. They've already taught them this school year, and based on the data, you know, Katie's kind of one too that will be kind of monitoring that and finding out, well, we're having kind of a rise here. We might need to go back to the schools and have them reteach something. And we also know when kind of difficult times in the year are. Like, you know, I don't have to tell you, the week before spring break is an ugly week. And we all go, oh my gosh. Or, you know, the day of Halloween or before. There's all kinds of ones that we sit down and commiserate over Valentine's Day. And we just know they're coming. So those are days too that we can maybe even ask teachers to pre-correct and maybe teach the lesson again before that day. That would be awesome. That might be something we think about doing. And again, Katie's going to be the person that we can talk to about that. So what the drivers say about this is that after doing it for several years, this is what you said after the first year and a half, treat each child as an individual, create relationships. I cannot emphasize this more. I just can't. It's so powerful. Teachers too. You know, you just have to develop a relationship with your kids, particularly with the ones who drive you crazy. Particularly with those kids. You might be the only, besides your teacher, the only positive adult that might be in their life. Who knows? It's really powerful. And then use your bus bucks strategically and often. Be fair. Be consistent. So important messages. This is so powerful to know. This is the same way. Teachers and you set the environment and the culture of your bus. But I do want you to think about prevention. If you know Katie is your biggest challenge on the bus every day, I'm going to take anything I can to do try to prevent her behavior. I know she's going to get on, she's going to try to do this, so I'm going to think some ways that I can try to interrupt or to prevent that behavior. And you need to use the same language all the time with the kids, as they do in the schools. To shape, yes, to shape and encourage the behavior that we all really want from our kids. So using that language. So what we've learned about behavior, it is learned. But it is really about a lot of attention, I would imagine. That's what I put it into. And then the tough part about this, and this is the one that really is hard to kind of, I guess, grasp, and then it's almost depressing, is for every year a behavior, like maybe I have a really big attention-getting behavior that it's always worked for me. For every year that that's in place, it takes at least 1 month of hard work for that behavior to have a significant change. But the nagging doesn't get you anywhere. So ask them think and ask them to tell you what they know. But this is the tough part. So that means if you're really having trouble with the student, you need to let the school know. And see if you can kind of work together on this and say, I need help with the teacher reteaching this, and I'm going to reteach it. If we both do it together, I think we can get there. 80% of the time, children comply with the rules. They do what we expect them to do. And that's really great, 80% of the time. However, they're recognized for compliance, for doing that, less than 2% of the time. And we have to change that, because we want more. The more we get recognized for something that you're doing and being compliant about, the more you're going to do it. Who hates to hear that you're doing a good job, right?
And one of those, and this is directly related personally with me as a parent, one of those is the get tough practices. Let's just be tougher. Let's just be tougher. The other is relying on false assumptions, thinking that this is just a bad group of kids. This is just a tough stop. These are just bad kids. Okay? And when we talk about the get tough solutions, it's clamping down harder, reviewing the rules without teaching them, without modeling them, without practicing them, making the consequences worse for the kids, establishing a bottom line, an ultimatum, if you will. And the predictability about that is that the kid's going to cross the line. You tell me I can't do that, absolutely can't, bottom line, makes me want to do it.
Draw that line in the sand and stamp on it.
Yeah, so false assumptions about students are that they're inherently bad. They'll learn more appropriate behavior through increased use of those get tough practices. Or just saying, you know what, today was awful, it'll be better tomorrow, magically. And the science of behavior has taught us, and this is a cute next slide, that kids aren't born with bad behavior. I mean, this little dude doesn't want to be typecast into a role, right? Behavior is learned. They're taught from the time they're born, the language they hear, the reinforcements they hear. That's how they learn behavior. And the good thing about that, well, the hard thing for us as teachers and you as drivers is that you don't really have a lot of control. You don't have any control over what they've learned, right? But the good part is that with reteaching and redirecting, they can learn differently. We know that students do not learn when given only punishments without any reteaching.
And it's really important to know that we're not talking about, kids, it's not like saying, hey, kids are going to have a natural consequence. That's going to happen, not naturally. But if the reteaching doesn't happen, it doesn't make a difference. It does not make a difference. So just punishing, scolding, giving them a detention, that does not. Reteaching is what really helps do that replace. You want to replace the behavior by teaching them what you want.
And it doesn't mean that they don't get consequences. Think of it as like a timeout. You put your child in timeout, just that doesn't correct the behavior. You have to go and you have to talk to the child and say, why did you have a timeout? What are you going to do differently? Engage them in that kind of experience. Otherwise, it's just, they're going to be going to timeout all the time. One of those consequences might be, just get this kid off the bus. Just get him off the bus and my life will be so much easier. That's what this slide is about, right? These are new slides to me, but Pam has seen them for years, so sometimes I might get the metaphor off a little bit, I don't know. She doesn't like that slide though.
I think it looks like we're being a child, and I don't know.
Sometimes you like it.
I know, so you gotta laugh a little bit.
What we fantasize is too different.
Yeah, right. Okay, so students will engage in behavior due to their environment. If you think about, before we go into this, no, that's okay. If you think about the way you behave in different environments, right now you're all very well behaved, right? You go out on a Saturday night, you behave differently. You go to church on Sunday, you behave differently. So because of the environment that you're in, you will tend to act accordingly, right? And then, go ahead, yeah, we can move on. So, and Pam, you might have to help me with this one because it's kind of a stretch for me. But, so a man walks up to an elevator with a lion, okay? And he tells the people, don't be alarmed, he's completely harmless. Okay, that looks like a crazy elevator to me. Well, he's completely harmless until something startles him, and what's about to happen. Okay, so kids may have had a great day, right? And they're coming on the bus and have no intention of acting out. And then they get on the bus with their friend, kind of like you said, right? They get on the bus with their friends and it just all goes to, you know what. So kids will behave in a way that their environment allows them to behave.
Right, yeah, and I think it's also, you guys know that kids get on the bus in the morning after a fight with their mom at breakfast. They get on the bus after school, and something just happened that was really disappointing, maybe in their classroom, or they just got in a fight with their friend in the bus line or something. You know, we receive those kids in classes, you receive them on the buses. And so it's being that connector when they first walk in the door, when they're angry or sad or something, going, hey, what's up today? It's great to see you, but are you okay? Just sometimes asking those kind of things helps kind of take the air out of it. And you know that, a lot of you. But it's paying attention to our kids and building that relationship so they always know you care. When they know you care, you're trying to build a relationship. And sometimes you can ask them in the worst of situations, today, could you do this just for me? I know you're having to talk to, and you can't play that card more than about 2, maybe 3 times a year. So don't use that as your go-to.
But it's nice to have it if you build that relationship with the student.
If you don't have a relationship, it won't work.
And let's be honest, it's not just about the frame of mind that the kids walk onto the bus with. You know, we, even as teachers, as principals, you know, we come with our experiences as well, and we have bad days. And so really kind of checking your mind frame before each round is important as well. Because, like the slides showed, kids will behave in a way that they're allowed to behave. And students do learn better ways of behaving by being taught directly and receiving positive and corrective feedback. So what we're going to have you do is kind of talk with a neighbor, so make sure, or 3 people, however you want to work it out, but make sure you have someone to share with. And you want to, good. Thanks. So with your neighbor, we want you to share a positive strategy that you've tried this year so far that's worked to improve behavior on your bus. Okay? So that's what I want you to talk about first, and then we're going to share out a few of those strategies. And this is a time where you know, we can really learn from each other. We're not going to make an exhaustive list or anything, but just kind of touch base with your the people surrounding you about a strategy that's worked.
And then we're going to just kind of point to a couple of people and ask you to share. Okay, so everybody needs to be ready to share. You're not going to raise your hand. We're going to point to certain people to share.
Take your hands all day.
So someone will be our attention signal. May I
Someone
have
said
your-
as an experiment, we should have, that way you guys just got a taste of what it's like to be on the bus.
You know, so what did we do wrong? We did not establish an attention-getting signal, our bad. So this is the signal. So even though you can't hear me, you know, may have your attention. So I'm sure you have a way of getting their attention too. They can't.
Turn around.
Oh, turn around.
Like a bus driver.
Gotta make sure you use all the fingers, not just the middle.
But we're at a disadvantage, we don't have a big ear. We can't see.
That's your bus friends.
Hey, you know that when you do that, you take your hand off the steering wheel. And you're trying to drive a bus and hold your hand up.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm
Okay.
suggesting you have a way you can that you do it.
Let's, before we get into the things that don't work, let's talk about what you guys shared with your partners about strategies you've used, positive strategies that you've used that have worked with your kids. Go ahead.
I was told a while back that you cannot have whistles on the bus.
Okay, no whistles on the bus.
I have a whistle on the bus. And I got that at the beginning, first of the year. I said, when I blow this whistle, that means you have to shut up. I mean that, dead silent. Because it's an emergency. I don't use it. I haven't used it yet. But I do have it, and I did tell them that. But what I remembered of it is, I remember the PE teacher, when they blew the whistle, you shut up and you got going. So we're getting down to what, discipline and respect? They don't have the respect that is necessary for what we have to do for them. Simple as that. If they did, when you said quiet down or you went like this, once upon a time, there was, what was this, quiet down? Signal?
So what, besides,
They don't
so you
pay
don't
attention.
use the whistle, so what do you use?
I tried this, I
Okay,
tried the PA.
so does that work?
Yeah, it does,
Okay,
if
good
you're
for you.
yelling, if you're like this, yeah.
So that's a good strategy to use the PA and use some signal to go with it. Because you need a nonverbal to go with it, and you do.
PA with this hand and we're like.
Look at it, if you know what you're talking about, the PA is simply paying attention, so you're not looking at what you're doing.
So you can't do it while you're driving, obviously. I get it. You know, you can do it at a stop sign, you do it when you stop, you do it when you can't. Different context. So another positive strategy that works for you.
If you act like a drill sergeant, they're not gonna respect you, they're gonna rebel.
No, they don't.
Everyone's forget.
So what is a strategy that's worked?
Work for you.
For me, I would clap just like they do in the classroom. If I can't at that point, you know, hurting, then I'll have the first student, the first couple seats, they could hear me better without using the intercom, so I'll ask them to do it. It quiets the whole bus down.
Nice. Okay, thanks.
I tried to do something like her for my first 3 days. I'm like relatively new, by the way, but my first 3 days I had a noise issue, and I asked the kids what they do in classroom, and they gave me the peace sign thing. I was like, what do you guys do to like quiet it down? Like just, you know, simmer it down. And they're like, we don't have one. So I was like, guys, why don't we just go like this if I need you guys to calm down? And then if I can't do it, I'll tell my leader, who's to my right, I was like, just can you put the rock on symbol on, please? And she'll just go up and everyone will calm down. So I don't really have a noise problem.
So using students as positive
Yes.
examples and help,
Nice.
having nonverbal signals, what else?
It helps if you make it fun. I use it kind of like a Simon Says thing, like I'll get on my mic and not everybody can hear me, and I'll say, if you can hear my voice, put your hands on your head. If you can hear my voice, put your hands on your nose. And then it starts off the kids who can hear me, but then all the other kids are just like, oh crap, what's going on? Oh. And then they start following suit. If you make it interesting for them as opposed to just, okay.
You know, a lot of teachers use that strategy. You're gonna, instead of saying, we're gonna teach you and you're gonna learn math, we're gonna play a game. And by the way, you're gonna learn. Okay. Oh, just call. What did you share?
Well, I use my intercom, you know, and I guess I'm an anomaly. I don't have kids crossing the street to get on my bus and stuff like that, and I just, you know, I'm real patient. I'm an official, and there are things that work, and just explain to them, look, I can't punish anybody here, but we should sure have a long conversation with your principal, and they can deal with you. I don't want to do that. So, you know, if you don't want to do that, we both don't want to do that, so just knock it off.
Sounds like we're shaping relationship building.
I use the intercom, but it's hard to have them completely silent. So I just say, can you take it down a couple of notches? I'm trying to concentrate on driving. That usually works. When it's a particular day, like a Friday afternoon or like the day before spring break, I'll do it a couple of times. If it doesn't quiet it down, I'll pull over when I can secure the bus. And I'm an avid reader, and I'll pull out my book. I'll just start reading it. And the kids up front go, what's he doing? He's reading. And it starts getting quieter and quieter until the bus is completely silent. And without saying a word, I just say bye. It works.
It does work, that works, but we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
We're pushed right into the wall.
It takes a minute.
Yeah. Well, and it's something you don't do all the time, right?
No.
It's maybe something you do once in a while. Okay. One more.
Just to change direction a little bit, on building the relationships. I'm a sub most of the time, so I'm on a different route a lot. And one of the things I like to do to establish control of the bus, even before we even leave, is I'm when the kids get on in the afternoon's the biggest problem, right? So when the kids get on the bus, I'm typically not in the driver's seat. I'm typically in the bus, like somewhere in the back, because that's where all the kids run to. And then when they see a driver back there, they're like, what are you doing? And I say, I just want to talk to you guys. How was your day? How did school go? And then once they like sit down and they start talking to me, and this is, granted, this is on a bus that doesn't have 80 kids. Right now my bus has 80 kids, so I can't really do that. But that establishes a relationship that is not strictly authoritarian. So I see them as a person, they see me as a person, and then when it is time to say, okay guys, it's time to quiet down, it's time to sit down, they've already seen me not as that, hardcore person, and so they tend to listen to me, and, very seldom do I have anyone that says, well, I'm gonna be defiant. So it's just,
It's funny you say, I'm sorry, I have to say this. It's funny you say that because I rode the bus. I lived in Biggs Landing growing up. I'm sure you guys drive. And I remember my bus driver, and I didn't ride the bus only just when I was little in elementary school, but I remember my bus driver, Patty, did that. She stood in the back and talked to each one of us. I remember her name was Patty. I don't think she's here. But that's something, that's interesting, that just dawned on me, but, okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about things that have been counterproductive as well, like being just strictly the drill sergeant.
What else doesn't work?
Yeah, what else
That you've tried does not work.
Screaming, yelling.
Bus bugs.
Bus bugs.
There are ways they don't work.
There are ways
like
that
them, but they don't have any payoff at the end.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about those next week.
You're right, they can be effectively used and ineffectively used. They can be effective ways of preventing and reinforcing behavior or not.
I found that you can't be friends with. You've got to hold their attention. I've been driving for a lot of years, and I started out wanting to be their friend, and it just doesn't work.
You can be friendly, and you can have a
Friendly,
relationship.
but not friend.
And by the same token, you can't be cool, like,
Frosty.
start doing some rap or hip hop or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would be.
What
Especially with my middle schoolers, I've taught them that if they respect me, my safety issues, and what I expect of my bus, I respect them as human beings also.
That's extremely.
And that has shown a big improvement with all of my kids. I've gotten letters from them, 8th graders, saying, different things about how it just makes their day getting on the bus with the bus driver smiling and this and that. So it really has I expect this from you. If you guys can respect me, I respect you
You
as
know
other
what,
human
though, I'm
beings.
telling you, I bet you already gave them respect. Because it starts with you. So if you give respect, I had a bus driver years and years ago who said, they're not giving me respect. And I said, here's what I know, if you don't give it, you're not gonna get it. So you probably were given it, and defining that and say, I'm gonna respect you, and I need you to respect me.
I've done that with my kids, my
And here's what
boys,
it
who
looks
do the
and
same
sounds
thing,
like. Cool, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Another idea to share?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this kind of loud, Dan. But Jim and Lisa and several other drivers have had the luxury of having the same route every year. And
That's
they work with
exactly what it is. I have to get the same route all the
every
time,
year.
otherwise.
And you build the respect between them and you because you get them every single year. But then when we bid and we can't get the same route, then we're starting all over again.
You're right. You're right. It's like, teachers who, like I was a second grade teacher and I moved to the 3rd grade with the same group. That's nice.
Sure.
And then, but you basically, you have to start over, but you know,
It's a lot of work.
it's a journey, it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for teachers, it's a lot of work for you, the same group that will do it.
But I do other people's high schools and things like that too, and as long as I have the attitude towards them as, you respect me, I respect you, that's how I run my bus,
Yeah.
I've never had problems with it.
And don't ever tell them what you're doing, I'm giving it to you already, and I need it back.
I really hate to stop this
I know,
because
it's good.
I don't think you guys probably get a chance very often to come together and share what works and what doesn't work, and I hate to do that, but we do need to go. Move on. So this is you.
So we're gonna take you to, so anyway, you've heard of EBS, EBIS, PBIS, and you're going, what the heck is that? So years ago, it started out at EBS, Effective Behavior Support. You might also hear it as EBIS. And so it's really, this is the definition of it if you want it. So when you hear it called PBIS, EBS, EBIS, it's all the same thing. Tiger Tualatin wanted to stick with the original name, which was EBS, and then kind of most of the rest of the state of the world is using PBIS. But Tiger Tualatin is actually an outstanding district and highly recognized for their PBIS, for their EBIS work. And you guys, your name is out there as bus drivers who use this. Other districts want to know about how you've done this. All the systems that you built 3 years ago have been shared. The other districts call and say, hey, how can we do this? You know, this is great that they've defined what it looks like on the bus and all the rest. But this is what the definition is. It's really, it's not a canned program. It's not a book you read. It's not any of that. It's some systems that are built. And basically, it has some individual strategies, but it's about systems. And we really kind of connected the schools to the buses to the schools in this particular setting. So it's important because we want to achieve better social skills with kids, and you know they need them, and better learning outcomes, academically and socially. While at the same time, it's about preventing behavior, not just responding to it. I'm just going to ask you right now, would you rather respond to behavior or prevent it? Prevent. I'm all about that. I don't like cleaning up the mess. So these are the systems. So this is what you built 3 years ago. You built an expectation system. You defined the behavior you want to see from kids at the bus stop. You know, as they get on the bus, as they enter the bus, as they ride the bus, as they exit the bus. You defined all that. This is what it should look like. And then there are lessons that went with that, so how to clearly teach that to kids, and those are taught by teachers in the school, and you have access to them as well. And then there's the reinforcement system. This is where we let kids know, this is where we notice, and this is one of my most go-to words, this is where you notice when kids are doing this, the behavior we want, and you let them know. That's what the bus bugs are about, is noticing and letting them know. Now, and you can tell them, you don't always have to give a bus bug for every single thing you see going well, but we're going to talk more about that next week, but that's really what that's about. So if you teach me, tell me what you expect of me, and you teach me what to do, then I learn what to do. It's like we have, I think that's the video that we have coming up later. If we just told kids what not to do all the time, it's so confusing. Then they go, okay, I know what not to do, but what exactly do I do? And then I keep learning, oh, you want me to do that now? Oh, you know, you're just off balance all the time. So we want to acknowledge, clearly teach, let them know where they're doing it, and then we need to correct. That means, which involves reteaching the desired behavior. So if they're not doing what you want, we need to reteach it. Now, if we've already taught it a lot too, we can ask kids, so what's the rule about taking your seat? They should be able to tell you. If they can't, you simply go, okay, what's the rule about finding your seat? Katie? I don't know. said, well, the rule about finding your seat is you take the first seat when you get on the bus and slide over. Okay, so what's the rule about finding your seat?
Take the first seat and slide over.
Okay, you got it, great, thank you, and show me what it looks like, boom, that's it, we're done. That's my reteaching. Yeah, and then I may have to do it 3 more days in a row because she doesn't have it or whatever, next week. But don't, just having kids say, don't do this, slide over, nag, nag, nag. Say, what's the rule about? What's the rule about? Ask them to do the thinking. So that's a part of the correction system. And then sometimes it ends up in some natural consequences. It might end up being a bus referral, it might end up moving to the front of the bus, or you move the seat for them, or whatever it might be. Natural consequences. Now this is kind of what this is called the triangle, EBIS triangle, and we kind of think of it like, 80% of the time when we teach kids in school or teach kids anything, and this goes for adults as well, the first time if we do a really great job teaching, we get about 80–85% that really, okay, I got it. I learned this, I understand it right away, you don't have to reteach me. Then there's about 10–15% that they don't quite have it. And so you're going to have to go back and reteach that in maybe a different way or multiple times until they kind of, okay, I think I have it. So, and that happens in schools all the time. And so the kids who are on your bus are those same kids. So there are kids who need to be retaught, need to hear it, need to practice it, and then finally they can't get it. And then there's that 3–5% at the very top of the red triangle up there. And those are kids who are at high risk. These are our kids who have lots of maybe learning issues, behavior problems, or maybe on even behavior plans, or have some other thing that's really impacting their life. And they're high risk. And so they take a little extra support to go ahead and be able to achieve some of the things we want them to do. So this, you're always trying to pull some of these kids down into here. But some of these kids, I mean, if you have some, traumatic brain injury, or you've got some other learning disabilities, and those kind of things, those things don't go away. You have to kind of work with the school on how can I get Pam just to settle down in my class. So we have to put a plan together. Don't try to do those things on your own. So anyway, that's really what, these are the kids, and then there is a triangle, of course, on your bus. You know those kids that are in that yellow zone that you think, how many times do I have to reteach those kids? So you can, I know you can give me names. So, but it looks on your bus, and you know what? It's kind of weird to say, but there's a triangle for adults in a school. There's a triangle sitting here. It's true. And so you have to think, where am I? I think I'm everybody else. I'm going to pull myself down. All right. So why positive behavior support on the bus? Okay, because we want to establish some safe environments for our bus and increase that social confidence of kids knowing what to do social skills-wise, how to treat each other, how to have a conversation that's not rude and loud and all the other things. And in schools, sometimes we have to help kids have a safe and lunch with somebody else. They don't have some of those social skills. So improve efficiency of systems of behavior support, and more than anything else, prevent behavior. You just want to prevent it. So what does it look like in the schools? Because I want you to know what's going on in the schools. They're doing this in the school. They teach the first days of school. So if they've got different days, like the first day of school, they'll teach 1 or 2 lessons. One might be, here's how you access lunch. We're going to go in the lunchroom. We're going to do a whole lesson on how you go to lunch, how you get your food, where you sit, how you go to recess. Here's a lesson on how we access the bathrooms. It's like what you should do. It's not a laundry list of don't do all these things. It's like what you should do. If you came in really early, you saw a picture of my 2 little grandsons slide. And and I worked with our son and daughter-in-law. They're just great parents, of course. But they have a little 2-year-old, and so I knew that they were moving in the right direction when Nolan went over to the 2-year-old, to the stove, the gas stove, and started putting his hands on the gas knobs. instead of going crazy and going, no, don't stop, I mean, because they said, Nolan, where should your hands be? They asked me to think, and he put them right on the towel rack. So what had they taught him? They had taught him not to touch, they taught him to put his hands on the towel rack. So that's what they taught us. So teach them what you want them to do, don't teach them what you don't want. Okay, so then, so it's going to give you maximum time to drive the bus, really using these things more than it had certainly before, and continued opportunities for students to learn and practice those expectations. They're not going to be great at them right away, and you know that. The school's already been going a little bit now. So for those kids who need some more practice, maybe we should provide that. High rates of really some positive reinforcement and certainly supervising the kids all the time. Whether you walk to the back of the bus or the other way to do a positive adult-to-student interactions, having it see the negative, we want the 5 to 1. So if you have to get after kind of like we teach or scold a student, it's really about I need to have some times where I'm really noticing the positives that's going on in the student that way. Okay, I think we're ready for a break. So we're going to take a 10-minute break.